You are listening to the Innovating Cannabis Podcast, where you will meet entrepreneurs, cultivators, scientists, doctors, and inventors in the cannabis industry.
I'm your host, Pam Schmiel. In addition to producing and hosting this podcast, I'm also a freelance writer and editor at Cannabis Industry Journal. You can find links to my profile and contact info in the show notes. Today I'm joined by Ryan Crandall, Chief Commerce Officer at MariMed, a multi-state operator with facilities in Delaware, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Massachusetts, Ohio, and Maryland. We dive into MariMed's operations across these markets, their plans to get GMP certification for their Maryland facility and beyond, how their team approaches product development and R&D, the use of functional ingredients in new formulations, and their growing interest in the hemp beverage space. Let's welcome Ryan Crandall to the show. Listeners, if we could just give an overview of, where MariMed is today, your footprint, your brands, and what your responsibilities are in the company, just to kind of frame everything.
Great. Yeah, I can do that. Pam, thank you for having me. MariMed is a cannabis multi-state operator is what we're often referred to, but we like to talk about ourselves in terms of a cannabis CPG company.
Mm-hmm.
We're very proud of the brands that we create. We operate cultivation, processing facilities in multiple states, mostly on the East Coast and central United States, and then also operate retail stores under a single retail brand across many of those states as well. And I can get into the details of where and all that kind of stuff certainly further. My role at the company is I'm the Chief Commercial Officer. So I have everything from retail to wholesale to marketing and R&D reporting into me at the company.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot of fun too. But yes, it is a lot.
Oh yeah, that is fun. I mean, that's kind of the most fun part, really.
Yeah, creation and the people and seeing these products come to life and take market share and be proud of the brands and continue to iterate. Yeah, I mean that's the name of the game, and we definitely have a lot of fun doing it.
And so you had created the Betty brand, right?
Yes.
And before you came on. So how did that start? Like, were you in the cannabis industry? I mean, is that what your start in the cannabis industry and the development of that? How did that work?
It's interesting. It's a little interesting story. I was still in the software world and the technology world. That's my background. And I've always been passionate about cannabis, and I've had friends that are passionate. I partnered with a couple of friends, and we created a not-for-profit back in 2012 in Massachusetts. And what we did with that not-for-profit is we actually applied for licensing in Mass for the medical program. And without boring you with a long story, in February 2014, we were let know by the state that we did not get a license.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a 2-year process of, really business plans and speaking to political folks and really greasing the skids. And, then it was kind of all just said, hey, you're not going to get it. And so what I did was I took the business plan on the edible side of the business and started what would become Betty's Eddies in February 2014. So yeah, I mean, at the start it was caramel. It was just caramel, and it was none of the fruit flavors that exist today, and none of the effects. But we knew that a couple things were going to be really important. Quality, we knew was going to be really important. We knew branding that spoke to customers was going to be important, and we knew dosing was going to be important. Consistency, and so we built everything that we built way back then was really centered around those things, and they, those differentiating factors have proved to be highly valuable across multiple brands on the edible side and in the product side in general.
And I know, I mean, it is a known brand. I recognize it. Maybe I have gone to the Massachusetts market and shopped before, but what do you like? What are your marketing tactics, or how do you think it's become, a known brand? Like, what have you been doing? Because how much can you really change edibles? Except now I like that the market is moving more towards like live resin instead of just distillate. Is that what Betty's Eddies is?
No, so we've been different. We've been the black swan since the beginning. So we know that full spectrum cannabis has better effects for people. So we've been doing full spectrum since the start. We've
Okay.
never been a distillate product ever, and we
Okay.
won't be. And most of our edible brands, there's only one that uses distillate out of all of them. So we are passionate about full spectrum, passionate about bringing bubble hash and rosin and all the newer techs to it. But to be honest, I mean, we really do care about all the minor cannabinoids being in there, having flavonoids, having terpenes, and really anything that doesn't get cooked out in the process stays in that oil. We use multiple strains to get to our full spectrum oil. We use that same kind of base to get to our RSO. Our RSO, Rick Simpson oil, is a warm water ethanol process, and our our warm ethanol process, our cold ethanol process is used for all of our edibles for full spectrum. So it's literally the same inputs going into both our RSO for medical healing and as well as our edibles.
So, okay, so you've been in the market, I think, since 2014, MariMed, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, so yes is the short answer. MariMed and Betty's were on a parallel track, and then in 2017, Betty's was purchased by MariMed,
Okay.
and then in 2018, I came on to run product and sales.
So I kind of want to go back to your extraction. What's the difference between the warm and the cold ethanol extraction? I'd never heard that before.
Yeah, so the warm water extraction, the warm ethanol extraction. So what you do is we chill our ethanol really, really cold for the cold side extraction. The warm extraction pulls more of the chlorophyll and some of the other things. So some of the other beneficials for an RSO product. Whereas in an edible product, when you're pulling in some of those colors, it's going to affect taste and color. And we're not seeing. We think the benefit of those things are there for RSO, but not necessarily needed, for the edible side. So that's been the differentiating factor for us. And I think most people will tell us that our full spectrum edibles are better than most on the market, if not all. So we feel like we're doing the right thing. And but the warm ethanol extraction is really excellent for the RSO product that we create.
So you started out in all the markets, or first when you first started out was medical?
Yeah, so all the markets that we were in were medical when we started,
And
and we've added some rec markets as we've gone along. Yeah.
so are you more rec now? Like the balance of your stores more rec, or are some of them both?
Some of them are both. Yeah, I mean, Delaware just flipped. So we had two retail stores in Delaware. Our entire operation in Delaware, up until, I think it was August of this year, was all
Yeah.
medical, right? And so a large portion of our business now is geared towards the adult use side. But, we don't forget our roots. I mean, we make medical products in every state. So whether it's high dose or, restricted ingredient edibles, we're very focused on bringing medicine to patients. That's our core mission. And then, adult use. Our COO often says, an adult use customer is just a medical customer who hasn't gotten their license. So
Totally, that's right.
we do believe that. So
Yeah.
the same efficacy that takes place on the medical side of things, we really take that same philosophy to the adult use side of things, and treat customers with that same level of respect. That a person that's buying a sleep edible, even if it's adult use, likely has some issues with sleep and needs help. And so we want to put the best product in their hands for their use case.
Absolutely. Everybody in rec really refers to that, or people who use it have used it for a long time, is, for medical reasons, absolutely. That's kind of really what it's all about mostly.
I mean, there's benefit to these products, right?
Yeah.
Regardless of whether you identify as a medical patient or an adult use patient, I think these
Yeah.
improve people's quality of life if used properly.
Yeah. So how do you see I feel like, is the medical market disappearing, or the ethics around it, or the operation? Like, I hate to see that go away. Even though, like we were just saying, the rec kind of, meshes together with the
Yep.
medical, but I just hate to see that we're not following like medical rules, as far as, seed to sale operations and safety, and, and requiring standards,
Mm.
like ASTM standards along the line. I mean, if you're in medical, you have to, but rec doesn't have to. So how do you see that playing out in the different markets? Or do you see it drifting away, or?
It's funny. I've thought about this a lot, and I think as we look at our business, and we look at, we were never in Colorado, but if you look at what happened in Colorado, they were the first kind of canary in a coal mine to see. They had a really vibrant medical program. Adult use came on gangbusters. The medical program really took a dive, but in recent years it recovered. And I think it really depends on the state, I think, and the restrictions they place on the adult use program in terms of dosage and taxes. A lot of those things really do play in for people. You look at a state like Illinois, it's a very, very high tax state in terms of adult use taxes. So, the math for a person that lives in Illinois becomes much easier for them to justify renewing their medical license and the benefit that they get. In a state like Massachusetts, there's different types of benefits. So yes, the taxes there on adult use, but on the medical side, retailers are actually able to advertise discounts on the medical side when they're not allowed to do that on the adult use side. So what does that equate to? It typically equates to a better value for a medical customer than it does for your general adult use customer in the state of Mass. In Delaware, we're seeing they don't have a difference between the adult use edible regulation and the medical. They're both the same dose, and they're low. It's 10 milligrams is the max dose there. So the medical program, I think, until maybe the state starts to think about medical dosing on the edible side a little differently, is probably in the short term will suffer. With regard to people renewing and feeling like there's value in that program. So I do think from the state to state perspective, these states and operators within those states, it's our responsibility to talk about what's working and what's not working on the medical side. I would tell you, our company wants to see medical thrive, and there's a lot more opportunity on the medical side. We want to see adult use thrive as well, but medical is a core piece of our business.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see the medical side thrive, just like I said, as far as operations, accountability, safety standards and all that kind of stuff, because that will only benefit everyone, in the recreational market. I've looked a lot at, the European market, and I just love what they're doing there, just really setting those standards. And I wish that we were doing that too.
Well, interestingly enough, I think we are seeing pieces of it. So in Maryland, for instance, when prior to adult use going live a year or two ago, 2 years ago now, they instantiated a regulation or a guideline that said your facility to be able to do high dose edibles has to be CGMP, so certified GMP, which is really a step to go towards FDA standards. And so we spent a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of people time and worked on that for a year to get our kitchen to a level that was GMP in Maryland. And so the benefit is certainly on the medical side. We're able to do all of our higher dose products for medical patients, but the benefit's also on the adult use side. We use that same kitchen and those same standards for all of our adult use products.
Yeah.
So the fact that Maryland as a state stepped up the requirement, it forced us to do that, and it pushed us down a positive path for where the industry's going.
Yeah, exactly. It's where the industry's going,
Yeah.
Which actually brings me up to another interesting topic, is why I think it's going in that direction and faster than we think, is the whole Target move with putting beverages into the hemp beverages into their store.
10 stores in Minnesota, I think, right?
Yeah, so yeah. And why I'm saying that, and I actually just wrote an article about that, is they have, to get into mass retail, they have very strict guidelines, and they're, so that they're not exposed to liability issues, and GMP and all that is part of their, criteria. So these brands do not have, they're being manufactured by X breweries, old alcohol, distillation, blah, blah, blah. They are not, they are not certified GMP, because cannabinoids are not, nobody's certifying them. So how is it in Target? So when this kind of all comes out, it's going to be an issue, but that's just going to make everybody aware, hey, if we want to get into Target, we need to, or these mass retail, we need to be certified in these different areas.
Yes.
So I think it's really opening something up here that could really push us forward.
I agree. I think standards, on the cannabis side have been a thing in state to state for a long time. And, we say it within our walls, like the challenge is the opportunity, and we truly believe that. Like, okay, there's a new guideline in X state X. Well, the faster that we can figure out how to comply with that, the
Yeah.
faster we can get to market and the faster we can, be ahead of the competition.
Yeah.
I kind of feel the same way around what's happened on the hemp side. I think there's a lack of regulation today. It's a little bit of an open landscape that, if you listen to what the government's saying carefully, it sounds like they're going to close some of those loopholes, or they intend to over the next 12 months. It'll be interesting which ones stay closed, which ones open, and the ones that stay open, how are they regulated? And we're actively very focused on that end as a company to understand that and make sure that we can capitalize when the time is right.
So are you guys thinking, well, actually, I just want to ask one more question. So in all the states that you're in, which Illinois, I'm sorry, Delaware, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, I know you don't have a facility in Pennsylvania, but do those states all require GMP certification for your medical operations?
No,
Or no, that's
no,
crazy.
not yet.
I
Not yet.
just
I think it is
assumed
being
that they
talked
did.
about. Maryland led the way here.
Really?
They were ahead of it.
How can that
I
be?
would say this as a company, we've deployed GMP standards proactively across many of our kitchens. So we're preparing
Yeah.
to get there, but we're not being pushed there.
Yeah, and so you said it took a year for you to get that implemented in Maryland.
I think it was a little over that. Yeah.
So is it just updating your equipment?
It's very, so yes, equipment is a piece of it. A large piece of it is process and documentation. Really, batching, process, documentation, and training for employees. And then the ability, certainly the facility and the way that you need to clean the inside. That's all to a very specific specification. So I would say, and those are covered under process. So it's really process, people, and equipment are the big things.
Okay.
But it does take a lot of preparation to get your SOPs rewritten and the proper documentation, logs created, and then all being used in a fashion that works, right, and that scales. So I think we've really landed in a great place around our GMP. And I think, being in Maryland and having that requirement has set us up as a company that's ready to roll this out in other states quickly as we need to.
Yeah. And is the burden mostly in the cost of doing it, or just the long process of getting these SOPs in order?
I think it's really the time in the organization. I don't. I
Mhm.
don't think there's definitely a cost associated with consultants that come in and help you with the process. But once you're set up, it
Mhm.
really is about maintaining, following that process, and then becoming recertified. I mean, you got to certify. So
Mhm.
they come in and typically raise the bar, and it's kind of like an auditor, right? I mean, they're
Mhm.
constantly trying to get you better. So I think we've got a really good group that we work with that continues to push us and make sure that we're well on the good side of being certified.
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, I'm asking also wondering, like, why aren't other people stepping up to the plate because they're not being pushed, but like what it would take for a company. It doesn't sound like it's over the top, like financial, but it's just more like organization and SOPs. And were you able to borrow SOPs from somewhere else, or is it like making these SOPs? Is it following ASTM?
So we have all of our own SOPs to start, right, for all of our own processes, and then there are recommended guidelines for things that they want to see in the GMP type SOPs. And I do believe they're based on other governing standards, and they're pulling from those things. But certainly, it's a modification process from what we know works in all of our facilities to stepping that up to what that GMP requires. So it really was looking at every process that happens within that space, making sure that it's compliant with GMP, and making sure that it can scale with GMP. And so it really did touch everything that we did.
Okay, that's cool. So just staying in that same vein, been hearing a lot of talk lately about like what's quality cannabis, how to keep, preservation and that kind of stuff, and talking about shelf stability. And so I have a real kind of been looking at the last mile from, manufacturing and warehouse to retail.
Yes.
I feel like, and I'm in the New York market, and I just been talking to a bunch of retailers here and brands and that kind of thing. And there is a missing cold chain supply infrastructure missing in that last mile, and it's very detrimental to our products. I mean,
Yes.
and I feel like a lot of retailers, a lot of people don't really understand how cannabis can degrade so quickly, temperature, if it's not stored properly, but temperature and light conditions. And it's sitting on those shelves, but there's proof, lab proof of, like, I just heard flour can degrade like 2% every month. So, where's that shelf stability? But also, I'm sure a company like yours is monitoring or has a cold chain infrastructure, but how do you think about that? And maybe looking at other companies, because then people are not getting what they're promised, what we think, or what you're spending your time manufacturing.
Yes.
It's all being degraded on the shelf, and consumers are not getting it.
I agree. I think, it's interesting. I take this. So we do an ice cream in up here. So you want to talk about understand the cold chain? It's like you don't have, you get melty and refreeze, and you got ice crystals through your ice cream. So,
Mm.
we work
Oh.
with a company. I don't know if you know Emac and Bolio's.
Mm.
They have stores in New York. They have stores in Boston.
Mm.
He's been around. The gentleman who started it is a gentleman named Bob Rook, and he's been doing it for 45 years. He's an icon in the ice cream industry. He's got stores all over the world. Doesn't
Oh.
have a ton, but he's got stores, and his ice cream's amazing. So, I've been
Mm.
working with him for a few years on how to do cannabis ice cream and the cold process. I mean, he makes his ice cream here and ships it to China and in so
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
and does it cost effectively. So I don't want to share too many of his secrets, but the
Yeah.
reality is, we're learning from people that do cold chain at scale, um,
Mm.
and we understand how to move ice cream. I would say we can get better. We can get better. I know everybody can get better. I mean, I know there's stores that we ship concentrate to that don't have fridges.
Yeah.
That's opportunity. I do think some of these vehicles don't, in the place where the product is stored, don't have AC in those compartments. And you're talking about Delaware and Maryland by the beach. It's got to get 120 degrees in some of these vehicles. Uh,
Yeah.
so I can tell you that I think we're ahead of it. We do, but I still think we can get better. So I
Yeah.
think there's opportunity abound in both our own locations as well as our customers.
Right. I forgot, because you're also selling wholesale to other dispensaries. So you're the concern of your product ending up like that. And I know, all these dispensaries are, mom and pop owned, most of them. And everybody's just trying to get up to speed on everything. But I really, my mission is to, like, really drive this message home and start putting this on the map so people really start thinking about this. And because I just feel like nobody's really addressing it, or they just have too much on their plate that they really want to address it. But I think it's really the next big thing, because you're not getting those benefits. It's degrading. It's just the
Yes.
bottom line.
I think the easiest one to see is in concentrate land, right? Yeah, I mean, for
Yeah.
people that grab concentrates, and concentrates are expensive, right? And they're volatile. Like they're very, the
Yeah.
smells right there, and it's like if those aren't kept proper, a upright, right? And
Oh.
and b like if it's stored in a warm location, when I open that and it hasn't been upright and it hasn't been stored in a cold location, I've got half my concentrate on the cap. It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
unusable. I've got
Yeah.
half in the jar. It doesn't look attractive anymore. And as a consumer, I'm probably not going to go buy that product again. Now, if that's the retailer that stored it that way, but it wasn't like that when it was delivered, it's on the brand, ultimately to figure out how the retailers are servicing their product. So that's a pre-selling condition that a sales team should really be going into the accounts where our concentrates are going to land and saying, XYZ, this is our criteria. Let's make sure that we follow this process. And in a state like Massachusetts, there's 300 plus retailers. We're in 240 of them. There's a lot of different people and processes to maintain to have a great flow and a great customer experience. We're focused on that. But as I said, I think everybody in that process can get better. And I think it starts with people saying, hey, there is a problem here. Like, we can do
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. And I mean, for the brand, like the concentrate brand, the high-end concentrate brand, that's a high ticket item that a lot of people aren't paying for now. And certainly in a new market, that's hard to sell.
Yes.
They don't know it yet. So, they're up against the wall too. Like, how do they push a retailer to go, well, we want you to buy a refrigeration, commercial grade refrigeration for the
Right.
front of your store to put it's this, I've talked to a few of them and they're really challenged to do that, to get people to do that. So I don't
It
know.
ends up becoming part of the brand. Like, it's, we've actually installed fridges and coolers, and
Yeah.
doing the ice cream, we had freezers being shipped, all over the place. And we've done the same for concentrate in point locations. But I think the industry as a whole can do better. And
Yeah.
honestly, I would say there are some stores that, even there's one that is in my mind. I won't list them, but I mean, they have an incredible, they literally have freezers behind the counter and fridges where they're keeping drinks cold and
Wow.
concentrates cold. And I mean, so there is a world where people do understand this. And I think what we're really talking about is the majority of people adhering to those practices. But I think we're still seeing it just as kind of a small segment of the
Yeah.
population that has really taken real care and control of those products when they enter their facility.
Yeah, very small. I don't see it here. I'm in New York City. I do not see that here at all.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, but yeah, I think that's a real problem. So how is the Massachusetts market? I just
Yeah,
feel like it's so
everybody's
volatile.
anytime I get that question, it's with that kind of backing. I would say, listen, this is our backyard. This is where we grew
Yeah.
up, and the market's been a challenge over the years, but we're very well positioned here.
Mm,
We have this market has been difficult at times with people, paying bills. They opened up a lot of stores all at once, and people are all right on top of each other.
yeah.
I think our sales team has done a very good job of opening up the right doors and making sure that we're in people that pay their bills and that display and treat the products properly and have a great customer base. So, our business is very healthy here. We continue to expand
Wow.
here, even in a tough market. So, flour pricing is tight here. Really, all the pricing is tight here. It feels like it's gone in the direction of Michigan. That said, as a company, we are focused on cost control and high quality products. So, I think we've done a very good job of keeping our quality standards high, making sure that our product stays consistent, and making sure that it's not just, we don't just ship the product to retailers. We have a brand ambassador team and a sales team and event team that's very active in these markets, and doing micro events with different stores and really supporting our retail customers. Even though we have our own retail, we support. We talk about our own stores. Our 3 stores as our A accounts, but we have a lot of other A accounts in the state that we support as if they were our own. So it's been a very healthy market for us. We feel good about the market. We continue to innovate new products, and they're well accepted here. So I feel good about the mass market.
Yeah, okay, yeah, going to brands and all your brands and all that R&D. Well, how's the ice cream doing?
Really well. So we actually, no, I pulled it back. We were in a quarter ounce cup, a 4 ounce cup.
Oh,
So
okay. So
think
it's
the
just like
little friendlies, like tiny guy. So we're reworking the format and going to come back out to market with that product. I think in a more usable format, a pint or a little smaller than a pint, which is the trend in ice cream right now. So
Oh,
everybody wants to buy a pint of ice cream. Nobody really wants to buy a 4 ounce serving. Um,
really?
yeah, I mean, the thing was, it's
The dosing.
the dosing was the problem here, and we were worried that the cannabis commission was going to have an issue with us being able to meter the dose with a measuring spoon. They haven't had issue with it, so I think that's where we were really cautious. We wanted to do less in an amount and make sure it was going to be good for adult use. But I'm confident now that the way that we do dosing and the way that other companies are doing dosing, that we can do a larger format, which is really what people are looking for when they buy ice cream. There's a big trend in ice cream. It's interesting. Like when you look at the grocery store, where we saw Haagen-Dazs pints and Ben and Jerry's pints, a lot of the newer guys are going to a 14.7 ounce. So it's
Oh,
actually a slender pint. It looks just like a pint. You wouldn't know it's not a pint, but the
oh,
ice cream guys are telling me it's because they're trying to save on cost. So you're going to see a lot of people go. You'll see pints in the store that are going to be 14 ounces and some that are 16, a true pint. We're working on something in the middle there to make sense.
I hate when they do that.
But I'll tell you, the ice cream's delicious, delicious. Like, I mean, it is one of the best cannabis products I've ever had. So I think we've
Really?
gotten that feedback from our consumers too. So they're actively, we're working on a little bit of reformatting, and I think we'll be back out. I'm planning on the springtime.
A dose per gummy in Massachusetts, 10 milligram.
Five.
That's what I thought. Oh,
Five. Yeah,
wow.
so every serving's five or less. So our 4 ounce was 4 servings. So it's 20 milligrams in 4 ounces, which, depending on the user, is kind of heavy. The problem is the price point of ice cream, right? The price point has to be there to support the ingredients. So the milligrams also have to be there. So
Yeah.
the way that, we're thinking about is 5 milligram servings with more servings in a unit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, 10 seems like a good one to me. Everybody's different. Some
Yes.
people need 5. So, but ice cream, you could really, you could just eat. And
Oh yeah,
how do
it's
you, it's
it's
not just
delicious,
a gummy. I mean,
right?
feel like it needs to be like, yeah, less dosing or less milligrams.
Interestingly enough, milk is like like it's not used a lot, right? Because it's in cannabis products, but I would say like Indians used to infuse milk with cannabis. Um,
Really?
yeah, it's like a pretty interesting thing. So
American Indians?
yeah, and so they used to infuse milk with cannabis, and there's a specific name for it, and it's escaping me right now. But the
Oh,
reality is that whole process of infusing milk with cannabis is really easy, and milk takes on cannabis really, really well. So
really?
the ice cream and kind of milk pairing with cannabis is a very natural thing that's been around a long time, that people have been doing for a long time. So I feel, yeah, the infusion of milk with cannabis is great.
And are you doing like single strain flavors? Or are you covering up the taste of weed?
No, so I mean, we're using full spectrum edible oil, the same oil that we would use in Betty's or Bubby's or any of our other full spectrum edibles. We use it in the ice cream, and the only flavor I think you can really taste it in is vanilla. Everything
Mhm.
else, it kind of gets covered up pretty well or marries very well with the flavors. Like we have a black raspberry ice cream that is you would never know there's cannabis in it, which is kind of
Mm.
dangerous.
Yeah, that
We
is
definitely need to make
dangerous.
sure that the thing is marked, and it is marked very well and
Yeah,
child food and the whole nine.
right.
That said, it's delicious and you really wouldn't know it, and it's full spectrum.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I love the flavors. I like the flavor of weed and and gummies and things like that. I just love I don't know.
We hear it often, right? We hear it like, a lot of people, unless you got the crowd that's going for the distillate gummy that doesn't want to know it's there. I think most people do want to have a hint to
A
know that
hint.
it's in there,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they don't
Yeah.
want that, I don't want to call it nasty, but that weird kind of ruin your palate distillate taste.
Right, right.
They
Yeah.
want natural cannabis flavor,
Yeah.
a hint of it.
Yeah. And you were mentioning earlier with your gummies that the full spectrum that are you just single strain, or do you marry a couple different strains to get the different cannabinoids that you want, or like profile, or how does that work
Yeah,
with
so we're mixing a lot of strains on the back end.
Oh, okay.
And really, like, our Nature's Heritage brand is our flower brand, pre-roll brand, concentrate vape, premium side. Everything that we grow to be nature's, and it's a limited number of strains from indica to sativa to hybrid. We're blending all of those
Oh.
to our full spectrum oil. So we're getting everything that our strain library has to offer gets into that oil.
So it's really just to kind of fortify it to get as many cannabinoids and
And
terpenes and
nutrients as possible in there,
nutrients as
right?
possible.
And then to supplement that, we're adding minors, right?
Oh.
So like for Betty specifically, like I'll talk about our energy skew. It's Go Betty Go. And it's a 5 milligram in Massachusetts, 5 milligram chew with full spectrum oil, 5 milligrams of THC, a lot of other spectrum in there. But then we're also committing to 2.5 milligrams of THCV that's added in an isolate form to that full spectrum oil.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
so a lot of different blends that we have like that. So we have a bedtime that has CBN and CBD along with THC, and those minors are blended with that full spectrum oil. So in all cases, we're using a full spectrum foundation, and then we're adding in minors at a rate that we feel is medically beneficial.
What's a minor on your radar like for the future? What are you thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, I THCV is pretty hot right now.
Yeah.
I love THCV.
I haven't been exposed to it like as far as THCV, like just focused
Just
on
straight THCV. Yeah, I mean,
it.
I've had it both ways, and I would say I've seen other people and their reactions, and I would say, you know, it definitely is an appetite suppressant for people,
Oh,
and energy, right? So I've seen people eat 10 or 20 milligram just THCV and literally, curb their entire appetite even while they're, under the effects of cannabis. Have
mm.
kind of zero appetite, not like an upset stomach, just like I'm not interested.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
do think there's a lot to THCV as an appetite suppressant. CBDV, another V of the CBD form. That's a very interesting cannabinoid that I
Mhm.
think we're seeing a lot of therapeutic benefits and reading about a lot that are being studied. So that's an interesting one. CBG tends to be a very hot cannabinoid right now.
Yeah, I've been hearing that. Is that for wounds, like if topical CBG or
Yeah, I
what?
think CBG is definitely in a lot of topicals. We're also talking about it's a mood enhancer
Huh?
for people that are taking it, ingesting it. So
Mm,
several of our latest LTOs, we do typically an LTO every quarter with Betty's just for 3 months, and we've been putting CBG as a minor in those and getting a lot of really good feedback from people that they're enjoying it. Um,
mm,
so I think, and then the other interesting one is like, yeah, I think, CBD is an old one, but we're
mhm.
seeing, a lot of our products that are high in CBD are doing very well with consumers.
Yeah,
And
I like CBD on, as a complement to THC.
yeah, there's a
Yeah.
real desire for CBD
Mhm.
products out there, not just high THC. So, I
Yeah.
think the miners are having their day, and I think I'm excited. We just try. I mean, I think there's 80 something miners, 84 miners or 85 that have been identified, and we just talked about 5 of them. I mean,
I know.
what are the other 80 that we should be
I
talking about?
know.
And that's the exciting part of this industry is like there's so much still unknown, and we
Yeah.
talk about the benefit of full spectrum oil. Well, you and I have talked about that quite a bit here. And all of that benefit, not all, but a lot of that benefit is based on how these other miners interact with one another.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
that's all to be understood in the future. And that's exciting.
I know. I'm excited about that. And so then also, yeah, leading into your dipping into functional ingredients.
Yeah.
How is that going? Is that never do you have that in every state? Is it so what is the functional ingredient product?
Sure. So we got a couple. So I would say it started with Betty's Eddies. So, our first product that started to use this kind of nutraceutical path almost, right? So, the way that we think about Betty's is we want to achieve a function. And when I think about the cross between cannabinoids and GNC, that's where we land, right? So, if you go to GNC or you go to Vitamin World,
Oh,
they are going to recommend products like ginseng and dandelion root and some of these really kind of cool holistic means, right? And we believe that there's a lot of benefit to a lot of those products. And I think when paired properly with cannabis and cannabinoids, you can really get to a place where you're almost guaranteeing an effect for a customer. And
mhm,
one of the things I think we've done really well, at least within the Betty's brand, is we know that people aren't going to eat just one. And
mhm,
so making sure that when we're putting caffeine in a product, that we're not putting a full cup of coffee in a single chew, putting 20%. When we're
mhm,
putting melatonin in a sleep product, we're not putting 5 milligrams in there, we're putting 2, right?
mhm,
And so we're making sure that people, if they do overeat, aren't going to find themselves in a bad place with these supplements or the
mhm.
cannabinoids. So that's intentional. And I would say, we've taken that same strategy now to Nature's Heritage, which is our flower brand. We just launched a vegan pill, which is all about functional mushrooms meet cannabis. And to me, that's very much the same as what Betty's is doing. We're taking mushrooms that elicit effects, and combining those with cannabis in a vegan pill, a no sugar, to
Mhm.
enable people to take their cannabis in a daily way with other functional benefits from mushrooms.
Yeah, I love that approach too. There's only a few brands out there doing that, like the pill form or the capsule. How are people responding to that? And do you have it in every market?
We have an intention to get it in every market, by, I would say, by the end of Q1 next year.
Hmm.
Um, and the reception has been excellent, right? A little bit of mixed reception in a single state where they're giving us a hard time about mushrooms and the effects with THC, and but we're working through that. Other than that, I mean, the customer feedback has been fantastic. Uh, from the perspective of a lot of people are telling us, like, we have one of our sales reps. He's tried every sleep aid under the sun, and the sleep aid with the mushrooms in microdose is the one that's working for him. And he's tried everything. So he's had
Wow.
other customers tell him the same. I think part of it is a no sugar alternative to all the gummies out there. So it is a pressed pill, and it's not to be chewed; it's to be swallowed. And I think it's fast acting, right? So you're getting fast acting major cannabinoids and minors, as well as the mushrooms. So yeah, I mean, I think people can feel good about not getting a glycemic spike when they're having these products, and I think there's a need for them out there for people who are really trying to stay away from sugar.
Right. And so I would imagine in your R&D you were working with a toxicologist on this because I don't know if you heard, but I think it was 1906, the
Oh
brand.
yes,
Did you hear about that? Yeah. And
Amiana,
in
yes,
Colorado, and one
yes.
of their ingredients in their functional
In the midnight, their midnight skew, yes, yes,
caused liver damage, and now there's a lawsuit against them, and
yes.
supposedly they knew about it and they didn't do anything, that, supposedly. But anyway, I it's just the big red flag. Like, there's so many loose brands out there just throwing these ingredients together. I wouldn't expect you guys to do that, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, and I wouldn't. Yeah, and I didn't expect that out of them. I think that
Yeah.
I think there is. We work very hard before products come out. We have a food science team that I'm very proud of. I think they do excellent work. But I mean, they are very very focused on, and the brand management team. So R&D and brand management work together, and I think we've got a lot of talented folks out there that are really thinking about the consumer first. Uh,
Hmm.
and making sure that these similar products already exist in some way in the market.
It's
Um,
new.
yeah, I mean, but that said, there are a lot of functional mushroom products out there that are non-cannabis, and
Yeah.
so we evaluate all those, the dosages. What do they say in the effects are? Then we're creating our own, and we're working through food studies with those. So we're doing everything as responsibly as we can. Um,
Yeah.
I would say anytime you're creating a new product, there's risk of doing something wrong. But I do think that we're doing everything in our power to check all the boxes before the 1906 situation happens.
Yeah, I mean, a toxicologist, that's what you need,
Yep.
the
Yep.
food scientists and toxicologists, you can't just mix it yourself. And then, yeah, so I think it's interesting that your company does kind of um, dip into all these different form factors, like the pills, the ice cream, and then you also have the brownie line.
Yes.
So it's I mean, that's a very that could easily degrade also,
Yes.
shelf stability problems. How
Yes.
how's that working? Are people responding to brownies and in the stores, and are you able to keep it fresh and moving,
Yes. So short answer is yes. So that, I mean, one
Okay.
of the things that was interesting. So in 2016, I remember going out to Colorado, and me and a couple other folks that now work at the company. Grabbed a bunch of products, and one of the things we really understood when we got back is that there's a lot of junk and there's a lot of stale product.
Yeah,
Uh,
stale.
so yeah, and so we knew that there was a desire for a pot brownie, right? And a really good one, a tasty one. And everything that we tried was hard and old and stale, and either really tasted like weed, was overdosed or underdosed. So all the things we've already talked about. So we really targeted, hey, we want something soft and chewy, that if the shelf life is short, so be it. But that's what we want the customer to experience. So We launched a brownie, a chocolate chip cookie, and a snickerdoodle under the Bubby's Baked brand. And funny enough, we got some publicity. I don't know if you remember it.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the big
The
brownie.
big brownie.
Oh, that was you guys.
That
Oh,
was us. The 800-pound cannabis brownie was
yeah.
us, and that was Bubby's Baked.
Okay.
So in any case, we got some good publicity. We got on Jimmy Kimmel with that. Our head of
Oh,
R&D
my.
was smiling on
Oh,
Jimmy Kimmel. It was awesome. It was
I
really,
do
really fun.
remember that.
It
Yeah.
was awesome. It was
Yeah.
electric. That said, I mean, the real hierarchy of that brand is all about soft baked confections, soft baked fresh confections. So doing that is difficult without preservatives. We don't use
Yeah.
preservatives. We're sealing properly. We're cooking properly. But we have seen issues. Like, I mean, we had a blueberry muffin that we had to pull back because it's just too moist and wasn't yielding to what we wanted. Didn't have the shelf life we wanted. So, I think we're down to a 6-month shelf life. We do pull products back if they haven't sold. We don't typically have that issue. Typically, these products, they arrive fresh, within several weeks of being made. They're very, very soft to the touch and can pull apart. And by that 6-month line, they're still very, very good. I would say they start to get a little firmer, and that's when we want them off the shelf if they still are out.
Yeah. That's a good shelf life. That's a good shelf life.
Yeah, no, it is. Well, so we've worked hard on it. We've
Yeah,
worked
yeah.
hard on it. I mean, we used to
And
be
no
9 months.
preservatives.
We
That's
pulled it into a year to keep the quality standards as high as they could be. They are, certainly safe for the 9 to 12 months. We did the studies on it, but from a quality perspective, we felt the quality started to fall off after 6 months, and so that's where we drew the line.
wow. Okay, cool. So I guess just winding down here, I just wanted to kind of ask you about, just some challenges you're having in the industry, like retail. I'm kind of thinking retail across the different states, or in your focus, are nothing like supply and demand, in your stores from other brands, not your own, like inventory or, like staffing. What are some things that you're facing that every day that you have to deal with?
Well, I think, geez, I mean, I think regulations change, right? The national environment around hemp, depending on where your state is located, can be challenging. Some of your business starts to leak to some of these other places that may not be licensed.
Mm,
So I think that's a challenge, and I do believe that challenge will dissipate as more and more regulation comes. Um, I would say, hiring is always tough depending on how the economy is. I think the economy is in a little bit of a difficult spot right now. Prices have risen. Everybody's costs went up. Eggs went up, milk went up. Everybody's living costs went up, and cannabis prices came down at the same time, right? So we're at a unique inflection point, where the price of cars, the price of eggs, everything went up. Meanwhile, cannabis price went down. All of our costs went up at the same time. So that's where you see margin pressure for a lot of the cannabis companies. I think some of that's still ahead of us. I think some of the states have seen the decline of average ticket at retail. Some states haven't seen as much of that. So I do think some of that's in the front mirror as opposed to the back mirror. So I don't think the cannabis industry is out of it yet. But I do think if you are efficient in the way you do your products, you're responsible, you're thoughtful, and you plan, I think there's plenty of opportunity to still grow in this space responsibly.
right. What is your method, or for keeping things really tight, margins, and
Yeah, don't overextend yourself, and like be plan and we know what our winners are, and we know that when we launch Betty's in a market, that it typically does very, very well in that market, and we can pull the rest of our products and brands in through that. And Bubby's does very well, Vibations does very well, Nature's does very well. So depending on what the customer is looking for, we typically do have a good entry point into the store, and then through our service, through our delivery, through our brand ambassador program, we ingratiate ourselves with those customers and end up, spreading our wings and getting wider and proving to them that we deserve the shelf space. So I think that's the name of the game on the wholesale side. On the retail side, we're focused on loyalty, right? Making sure our loyalty program is as solid as it can be. We're making sure the customer experience is excellent. Most of our customers, I think it's like 47 or 50% of our customers are ordering before they get to the store in our
Oh,
network of stores. So what does that mean? We got to be really focused that the digital menu works as well as it possibly can and helps them in a way that a bud tender would in their face before they get to the store. Delivery is a big piece of what we're doing on the retail side. So we deliver in Massachusetts, we deliver in Delaware. We intend to deliver everywhere that allows it. We do believe we want to meet the customer where they are.
is there a lot of delivery? Are
Yeah,
people?
I mean, delivery has continued to grow for us in both Delaware and Massachusetts. Yeah, we're actually adding more cars in Massachusetts right now, expanding our radius of scope, and the average ticket in delivery is much higher than what it is in the retail store.
That's what I was just going to ask. Do you have a minimum delivery
We
requirement,
used to,
or do you charge for delivery?
we don't. No,
Okay.
we did. We've since a lot of times lifted those restrictions. And depending on the time of the year and location, we can assess some of those things. But for the most part, there's no fees on delivery and there's no minimum order at this point.
Okay. So well, yeah, delivery. That's just it's like here you go.
Yeah, I mean it's been excellent. I mean it's really
Okay.
convenient for customers, and I think some customers really do prefer to not come into the store
Yeah.
and deal with all that. And I think we really do have a way to be discreet, professional, and get it used to be order today, get your delivery tomorrow. In both states, it's order today, have your delivery in probably less than an hour and a half.
Wow.
So
And
it's
how many delivery people do you have, like, say, in one store? In one
typically two to three. 2 to 3.
Jeez.
Yeah. Well, there used to be a requirement in Massachusetts to have two drivers in a vehicle,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
recently went to one driver.
Oh, thank
We
God.
typically have 1 to 2 vehicles going out of each one of the stores. So one person's, kind of sitting back, organizing orders, and then drivers.
And you have to be losing money on that, right? I mean, gas, driver sitting there.
No, no, it's profitable for us. It wasn't with the two drivers, but it is now. It's a
Okay.
profitable piece of business and it's growing. I mean, it's a growing segment of the business.
Okay. Do you have drivers on bikes?
We don't. We don't. They have to be in a locked. I think it has to be in a locked
Oh, yeah.
compartment. So maybe we could have them go with a safe in a backpack, if maybe. But I
I'm
think it
just
has to be
thinking,
in a locked compartment.
I don't know how it works here. I live in New York City, so I honestly,
It could probably go on a bike there.
I'm wondering what they're doing. I don't know. I have to check this out.
I'm
And
not read up on it in New York. I know when I was in college, they used to deliver it on bikes before it was legal.
yeah, yeah. Oh my God. Actually, my very last question is I'm just curious about you do have one beverage in the market,
Yep.
and it's a energy drink, I believe, hydration,
Yep.
energy. There's how do you feel about the beverage? Are you guys going to step into hemp at all? As a brand, I would think I would step into hemp just to get more national brand awareness, though you are in a bunch of states, but it just seems like a logical way, to have a hemp arm to your brand. How do you guys feel about that? And are you going to get in the beverage space with that?
So we are very excited about the beverage space.
Okay.
Our product that gets us into beverage today is called Vibations, and it's really at a high level when you think about it, it's liquid IV meets cannabis, right?
Mm.
And liquid IV is all about hydration and recovery, and Vibations is all about hydration and recovery. Add cannabis and minors, right? And be discreet, be able to have a drink whether you're going to a Patriots game or a Giants game
Yeah, I
or the
love beverage.
ballet or your kid's dance recital. Like, I mean, nobody knows what's in your water bottle and you're just sipping away on water. And there's
Yeah.
both low dose and high dose options for people. So that, it's from that perspective, it's excellent. I would say, people being able to go on vacation, they're worried, how am I going to, oh, I'm going somewhere that doesn't allow drinks. Well, I can have a bag full of drinks. So I
Mhm,
do think there's a lot of flexibility to the offering that we have. Um,
mhm,
yeah, the hemp landscape's interesting.
mm.
We're staying very, very close to it. I would say the ready to drink market and the powdered drink market on the hemp side is real and doesn't seem
Mhm.
like it's going away. And we'll see where we get with that.
So as far as being a publicly traded company, how would that seem risky for you guys, or is
I
that
think
what?
the risk profile of hemp for all companies has
Yeah.
changed over the last couple of years. I mean, I think most lawyers several years ago were telling everybody, even though the Farm Bill was enacted, we're telling people to stay away from it. And it seems as though that's changed over the last really 2 years, and
Mm,
certainly over the last 12 months. Um,
mm,
so I think the landscape is changing and with that change, I think people's opinions and business plans will change. Um,
mm.
and I think that's happening as we speak.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks a lot, Ryan. That was really great.
Pam, it was a pleasure speaking.